Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Comic Chat with Gat. As always, I am the title character, Gat, and that is Comic Chat with. And we talk about comic books, and we talk about the current news in comics, and also teaching me about stuff. We've been doing this for almost a year now, and I'm pretty sure I've learned enough about stuff to get the basic gist of comics, but I don't pay attention to the current things, like DC deck building. Got me into that, loving it, and we're going to go over a new expansion filled with things I don't know.
It's true.
So all over this table is stuff that Taylor's going to teach us about, and in the meantime, I'm going to eat part of a Butterfinger because it's delicious and it was offered me by a sick person.
Okay. Oh, sound effects.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, first of all, the new DC deck building expansion is the Crossover 3. So, what it does is it gives you new playable characters, new villains, and like a couple new cards to add the flavor to it. So, it's kind of like the Arrow Pack. So, if you saw our video of the Arrow Pack, it's similar to that where, yeah, most of the cards are standard, like Superman or whatever, whoever's in the pack, but the other characters, like, you'll go through it and you'll get, like, we found the Mirakudu, right, or something like that. So what I'm going to be talking about here is some of my favorite cards, not all of them, but we're just going to go through them.
And this was designed by a friend of the show.
Yeah, Richard Brady. He's actually on the little thing here. Actually, I want to show this to you. Look, there's his name.
Oh, he's
Game Design and Development.
Yeah, he is. We know we like to joke that Stephen Amell is a friend of the show. Well, I mean, he is. But Richard always gives us some great advice, always talks to us.
Comments on YouTube.
Yeah, and answers our questions. So thanks a lot for watching the show. And we hope you guys go out and buy this and support him and everything he does.
Yeah, so I decided to add it to the Teen Titans deck building game as far as all the different ones you could... I could have added the villains, the Forever Evil, I could have added the original, but I decided to go with Teen Titans.
Is it because they look really young in the box?
No, that is no reason. The actual single reason is this one card here, which is my favorite card in all of the Teen Titans pack. It is the Superboy Prime card. He's one of the villains that came with the Teen Titans pack, and he is easily he's a huge villain of the Legion, especially in Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds, which we'll talk about. But the card itself was so well done because the character Superboy Prime, we talked about the different Supermans in an earlier episode.
Right there.
But, dang it, Chris, let's write that down. I actually have to upload that now, thanks. So, we talked about Superman, and Superboy Prime was one of the people that sacrificed their life during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. He was the one who's from the Earth Prime. Earth Prime is supposed to be our Earth. Okay. So in that universe, there's actually a really good book. I can't remember the name at the moment. It's Superman or Superboy, whatever. I'll put the name right here. It's about, like, what if that character didn't end up doing the 52 universes and end up having to, like, sacrifice himself and all that stuff. And so he's the only super being. Like, his name is Clark Kent. He was born in a small town in Kansas, but only because his parents' last name were Kent and lived in a small town in Kansas. Like, it'd be funny if you named him Clark. Like, because they read comic books.
Yeah.
And so in that universe, people are reading what this person is doing. And so at the end of, I guess, spoiler alert, at the end of Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds, he gets sent back to Earth Prime. So you're reading him basically living in our world, and, like, his friends and family are horrified by him because they see all the terrible shit he's been doing. And, like, they've been reading the comics of, like, him killing people and, like, wiping out the entire Green Lantern Corps and, like, all his terrible things that he did. Like, he killed, like, I don't know, like 70 plus Green Lanterns. He's a really, really bad character. He seemed good in original Crisis, and then he just went crazy. Okay. And he was locked away by the Green Lanterns for a while.
Was he ever like how in I'm gonna try to see if I can remember comic knowledge here. I'm trying to relate it to. He seemed like a good character, but he was actually bad. Does that have anything to do with when the guy in the Avengers was a good guy for
Hawkeye?
No, it was like the New Avengers. Who's the guy? Was it Osborn? Osborn. He was in the New Avengers. Norman Osborn. He was like everyone thought he was. They were like trying to prove he wasn't a good guy.
No, it's not like that. He actually was a good person, and he just went crazy. And he thinks he's don't call me Superboy. I'm Superman because I'm older now. He's full on, like, psychopath.
That makes sense.
And so the reason why I loved it so much is because his character lives pretty much in a real world. What it does is when you use it, you may swap your current superhero for one outside the game. Like, that's his ability, cool. Which is super neat. Yeah. And so when I read that, I was like, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
So, since Superboy Prime is such a big enemy of the Legion, that was a long-winded story to why I decided
at the end of it, Superboy Prime is a very large enemy of the Legion.
Yeah, and that's why I decided, purely based on one card in the Teen Titans pack, to mix them with those. But it works really well, because you have all the cool ongoing cards and stuff that go with that. But we're talking about the Legion of Superheroes.
Yep.
Before I get way into the cards, I'm going to talk about the comics.
Yeah, because I don't know what any of this is.
Okay, the Legion of Superheroes are a group of superheroes from the year about 3008. Okay. And they fluctuate sometimes, like in older comics from like earlier and then a little bit later to different centuries around 3000.
Sure.
And so what's cool about them is they all have these Legion flight rings.
Wait a minute, was this based on a Jonas Brothers song? Like they were born in the year 3000. Not much has changed, but they live underwater. But their great granddaughter's just doing fine.
They don't. Sarah,
you better believe I love some Jonas Brothers.
I just want to tell you that Sarah has been listening to that CD nonstop in her car. She got the CD. We were at the thrift store buying stuff for Halloween costumes.
This is real life.
Yeah, but they also talk about Back to the Future, and that song.
Didn't get it.
Yeah, they say flux. And they mean flux capacitor.
Okay.
Anyway, they actually say flux capacitor.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, Chris. Yeah, sure.
So I do a tangent there.
So yeah, they're pretty nerdy. It seems like those Jonas Brothers.
Yeah,
actually,
they're friends of the show, the Jonas Brothers.
Good old Jonas Brothers. Okay, so anyway, they're from the future, but the Legion of Superheroes is based off of the history and the character of Superman. So they base an entire we're aliens, right? Because Superman's an alien. We're aliens from other worlds or sometimes even Earth that have powers, and we want to be up to the standards of the great Superman. Kind of like there's
like a god.
Not a god, but more like a figure to look up to. Like Superman was one of the greatest heroes of all time. There's a Superman museum, and from the Superman museum, they decided, that's a character to look up to. That's a character to emulate. And so they base basically there are three main things, which are like truth, justice, and the American way. Off of.
How can there be an American way?
That was old. That's the old. It's.
Okay, just double check that.
But it's supposed to be like the ideals of the the old timey American ways, not like the new we're terrible and fat and everything like that. But the old timey American ways. So truth and justice and stuff like that.
Not
so
gay marriage.
So the main three Legion of Superheroes are Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, and Saturn Girl.
Are we going to be showing pictures of these?
Yeah.
What we're talking about?
And so Saturn Girl, her main thing is she's a telepath, and so she can see in people's minds like Professor X, right? Cosmic Boy can control magnets, so he can manipulate magnets.
So we got Jean Grey and Magneto.
He's kind of the American way. Of the three, they say he's about justice. Lightning Lad is the third one. He's about justice. He manipulates lightning, shoots lightning. Saturn Girl is the truth because she can read people's minds.
Sure. And
the all-around good guy kind of character is Cosmic Boy.
He's the white guy with the short haircut, kind of looks like military style.
Yeah,
I can see that.
So of those three characters, basically what happens is Superman. In this book, Superman and Legion of Superheroes is one of my favorites. These two are actually my two favorite Legion stories, and they connect. Which actually I hadn't read them succinctly for a long time because this came out way before this did. And the story of the Legion, because that's all the way in the year 3000, is actually directly after. But this could take place at almost any point. This takes place during Final Crisis. So
one question I've already got for the Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah.
Do you know what year or millennia that Superman died?
No, because they don't really have that date.
I'm just confused on why 3000, the year 3000.
It's just supposed to be he's been dead for a while,
right?
And they brought back.
There's no one between that time period
that is any better than Superman.
Yeah.
No way. Okay.
Easy enough. Fuck you, Aquaman.
So in this book, it's supposed to show what they did is they have a time machine because they're from the future and they have the time sphere, and they come back when Superman as a kid, okay, when he was Superboy, when he was just Clark Kent in Smallville, he had to pretend to be bad at sports, he had to pretend to be bad at all this stuff, because otherwise he would hurt people, he would be people were how are you so good at everything, and he would just laser their eyes out or something, who knows, whatever. And so he always felt like an outsider. Well, these three kids, when Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, and Saturn Girl had just started this thing, they time travel back and are like, hey, you're young Superman, you don't know it yet, but you're going to be super awesome. Come with us to the future and hang out. And they're like, hi, we really can't talk to you because of future stuff. And he's like, can I hang out with you? And Cosmic Boy's like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but Lightning Lad's the rambunctious, he's the rebel.
Let's do it.
The rebel guy. He's like, we've already broken rules. Why don't we just break this other one and bring him to the future? Who cares? Whatever. Oh well. And so they do. And it's a weird thing where, I actually just watched a Doctor Who episode about this where he was talking about, it doesn't matter. If you saw the recent Doctor Who episode, they talked about it. But basically they kind of teach him truth, justice, and the American way. They
teach Superman.
But he was
the inspiration
for it. Yeah, so it's circular.
Okay.
So kind of because they were based off of his things, they're kind of she instilled that, and they all instilled it on each other. And so he had these friends that were like, here's a Legion flight ring, even though he didn't need to fly, but like it's kind of like you're part of our thing. The Legion flight ring allows anyone to fly and can let you breathe in space. It's kind of like a little bit of like a shield and lets anyone fly. So everyone, because Superman flies, so they need a way to kind of represent that. And he can fly into space. So they kind of, take him under their wing, and he's like, when can we do this again? And they're like, why not tomorrow? Because we're literally time travelers, and you can just be gone within 5 seconds and back within 5 seconds because time travel. So through his entire childhood, they were his friends. And so in the Superman Legion of Superheroes, something terrible goes wrong in the future, and they try to solve it themselves because it's super dangerous for Superman because the sun is red in this. For some reason, the sun is red now, and he has no powers.
Right.
And so they keep trying not to, but Brainiac 5, who we'll talk about, who's the other, I would say, the fourth main member of the Legion of Superheroes in any incarnation, is Brainiac 5. And so Brainiac's a bad guy, right, for Superman, usually, classic Superman.
I remember that.
But now, the fifth iteration, the fifth version of him, he is now, like, he's so sentient that they have their own thoughts, and they're not, like, evil, and like, they all crave intelligence still, but they're actually sentient and, like, actual aliens at this point, not just, like, machines and stuff like that. So he, sends a thing, like a giant Brainiac machine to get Superman's attention, but he's like, I need to take you to the future. There's a time sphere in here. I can't figure out there's no other way for us to solve this problem, even though we said we wouldn't get you involved, but to take you in the future. So they take him in the future, and it's really cool seeing Superman without powers, but still it kind of helps you understand why people think Superman's so great, because these characters are so reverent of him, and he solves problems and just, like, is this guiding voice.
Did they give him a ring?
Yeah, they gave him a ring. Yeah, so he can still fly and he can still breathe in space and stuff.
That was very confusing.
He always has a ring, I guess. Like, either like, here's your ring back kind of thing. I think the ring that he gets in this one actually is the one he has when he comes back to the future for the Crisis Legion of Three Worlds, because it's like invisible. It's always cloaked on his finger because you can't know about the future. People don't be like, what's that Legion ring? So it's like as a cloaking device.
Sure.
But he's always wearing it, and it can. I guess so far in Final Crisis they called him on it. They're like, we need your help in the future again. Just say yes, and I'll instantly teleport you with this ring straight to the future. And he's like, yep. And he's like, pew! Future, really cool stuff. But so the story is about Earthman twisting. It's a guy called Earthman, which
bad guy, good guy.
Bad guy.
Got it.
Side story: Earthman is probably. I mean, he's a huge villain in this book. Nowhere to be seen in this expansion.
Why would that be?
Well, I think, and I think that DC has a lot of say. I mean, has the most say as far as what I've heard. With these deck building games, obviously their names on it, and so I think that they were pushing for new characters, like characters that are more pronounced in the new Legion books, which is kind of why I'll talk about that later. Like, these two characters are not the two characters that I would have assumed after reading these two books that would be the 6 main characters.
Sure.
And similar to like some of the extra like the heroes and villains that are in this, you're kind of like, well, why wouldn't you have like where's this guy or where's this guy, which were huge parts of this book, but maybe not as big parts of where DC's going now.
Sure.
So in this, Earthman has corrupted the Earth into thinking that Superman, it was all fake, and the Legion made it up that he was an alien, and they should be xenophobic and kill all the aliens and remove them from Earth and not be a part of alien culture because Superman was really just an Earthling. So the fact that they claimed that he was an alien is bullshit, and fuck aliens. Like, he's like this super like xenophobic crazy man because he was. The really reason why is like all the people that are in his new Legion of Doom, which is the Justice League, because they're supposed to be good guys. Now that is a similar situation to Osborn. They're calling themselves the Justice League
when they're not,
but they're bad guys.
Yeah.
But they're like corrupting everyone.
The Injustice League, as it moving on.
Yeah. So the only way, obviously, to prove that is if Superman shows up and goes, no, like I'm an alien. So that's why Brainiac brings him. But also, if he doesn't superpowers, people don't believe he's Superman.
Sure.
So it was a whole thing of like, how do you fix it, and how do you like stop this crazy man from corrupting the youth and everything? And they have great characters. His character, actually, Timberwolf, I think is his name. I hope that's right. He's basically Wolverine, like not even like kind of Wolverine. Like his powers are. I mean, he's got claws. He has super senses. Like he has regenerative abilities.
And he's from Minnesota.
No, because he's from the future. But he's from Earth though, so maybe he could be from Minnesota.
Team.
Oh. Anyway, so it's kind of funny. I know what I really like about these Legion books is like I'll show you. There's got to be like a quick one. Every time they reintroduce characters, they have like who they are, what's their name, where home planet, and like what their abilities are. So as you're reading, because there's so many Legion, so I can complain all I want about missing characters, but there are thousands of Legionnaires. Like let me just show you a spread. Like there's a lot.
How long has this series gone on for?
A long time. It's an old series.
Yeah.
Jeff Johns, of course, is the writer of both of these, and he brings these characters that seem kind of silly and dumb, like the Legion of Superheroes, which would probably seem like childish and kind of dumb, and makes them just fantastic. Like he does everything else, like he does with Aquaman, like he did with Green Lantern, like he did with a bunch of stuff. So I say that the two books I would read is Superman and Legion of Superheroes by Jeff Johns, and the art by Gary Frank. I just want to say I love it. He makes Superman look like Christopher Reeve.
Yeah,
when he draws him like Christopher Reeve.
The hair.
And it's just, I don't know, I really like the art style in here. And then Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds. So if you ever read Final Crisis, it's really hard to read. It's one of, like it's a Grant Morrison book, and it's just one of those, like I said, like Eddie does that stuff where you're really like, now reading it now, it makes more sense. But when I read it, I know all the characters. You really have to be like pretty knowledgeable about DC characters, which most of those Crisis books are, because they're the big event.
Yeah, everything is culminating.
Yeah. Superman's missing for some of it, and you're like, where is he? Well, he was in the future dealing with this stuff. So he kind of shows up at the end of Final Crisis, because he comes back in the future dealing with Superboy Prime. So this book is about Superboy Prime coming back and just wreaking havoc on the future. And it's awesome. And so I highly recommend both of these as far as Legion books. So let's talk about some of the characters that are in this.
Before we get into that, let's do kind of a recap, because that was a lot to take in. Give us maybe a one sentence of what the Legion of Superheroes represents.
Legion of Superheroes represent the ideals of Superman in the future, and so they're a team of superhumans or super things, aliens, superpowered beings that want to emulate and distill the good nature, the no killing, everything that Superman stands for, into a superhero team of the future.
And then there's bad guys out there that just,
of course,
there's always bad guys.
Lots of the bad guys are disgruntled people that were turned down from being in the Legion, which they talk about this too. Earthman was one. His powers, he can absorb anything. And a bunch of other people that joined his Justice League were also not allowed in the Legion. And the reason is, like, they end up talking, because Saturn Girl can see people's minds, and so Cosmic Boy is actually talking to Polar Boy, who's one of my favorites. Lots of boys, because they're boys, but now they're older, even though they're still called Cosmic Boy, because he's like, whatever, I don't need Cosmic Man. Because there is a Cosmic Man, there's a Cosmic King, and he's like a bad guy, whatever. So, Cosmic Boy is talking to Polar Boy, who was originally not allowed because he couldn't control his powers very well, so, like, you can't, like, just be this, like, you're like a ticking time bomb. I mean, you're these sweet ice powers. Like, he's one of my favorite characters. He's really jokey and, like, awesome. But they're like, you can't be a part of this because you just can't control your powers. We can't trust you. But he eventually went back with him and a couple other of, like, they're called, like, the Rejects or something. And they formed their own team of, like, we're going to get better together so we could then be a part of this. Because, like, it's kind of like when you get a constructive criticism or a criticism in a class, you could decide, I'm going to quit or I'm going to do better. And so that's kind of the mentality of Polar Boy. He's ended up becoming a Legionary. He earned his ring. But these other guys, this Earthman, Nuclear something, I can't remember his name at the moment, but, like, there's a bunch, Radiation Man, I think is his name, and a bunch of other guys, they just got bittered. And when Polar Boy's like, oh, they're just whiny babies, you know, like, it doesn't matter. And Cosmic Boy tells him, he's like, you know, it's not just because you didn't control your powers that we didn't let some of these people in. Like, Saturn Girl looked in all their minds, and if they were psychopaths and had tendencies to be terrible, terrible people, we also didn't let them in. Despite how good they could have been, the best strength guy in the world, or, like, whatever, but if he was going to maybe be a psychopath, we're not going to let him in. So that's kind of another, like, thing that, like, you know, something that Jeff Johns thought about.
Sentence summary we just gave there.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You know me, I love comics. Okay, so the next segment we're going to do is we're actually going to talk about the Legion of Superheroes. And so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back talking about the actual game. Welcome back to Comic Chat with Gat, Chris.
We were gone.
Yeah, because we had to transition.
We had dinner. It was great. It's dark outside now, which is also great. But right now, more importantly,
we're going to talk about the actual Legion expansion of the DC deck building game.
Yes.
So what they did was they added 6 new characters, which we talked about briefly earlier. 6 new characters, and then a whole new pack of villains.
Sure.
And then a bunch of, like, fun cards that make it
equipment.
Yeah, equipment and heroes and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk about a couple of my favorites, but first let's go over the main cards, because that's the most important thing.
That
kind
is
of when you're playing.
Play with, yeah.
Right. So the main 3 you've got are Cosmic Boy, who we just talked about, right? He's like the main one. Lightning Lad.
Yep.
And Saturn Girl. So
Yep.
those are the main 3 members of the Legion, and I feel like if you didn't have
canon,
those,
you can say those are the
in
main things you
canon.
need to have.
Right. You
Okay.
need to have them along with the 4th main character, I would say, be Brainiac 5.
You would say that over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over anybody else. So
Okay.
the next 2 characters, I actually was like, why? Like, to me, it was kind of weird, because I probably would have picked Polar Boy and maybe Colossal Boy or like Dawnstar or someone else. Those seem like pretty big characters to me. Or maybe even Mon-El, but Mon-El's in one of the other characters, and so is Dawnstar. But the next 2 are Chameleon Boy and Phantom Girl, which Phantom Girl is really cool. We haven't talked about her at all yet. Phantom Girl is like part of the Phantom Zone, which I don't know if you know about the Phantom Zone, Chris. The Phantom Zone is where Superman banishes all of his enemies. It's like this, yeah. Like, do you remember in
Arkham?
Kinda. You remember in Man of Steel when Zod, even in Superman 2, which is probably the best Superman movie, when Zod goes up and like they're sending him to jail and like there's rocket ship, and then he gets out of the rocket ship in the Phantom Zone. Like that's where they send Zod in the beginning of Man of Steel into the Phantom Zone, which is like this, like it's almost like purgatory.
Sure.
You're kind of stuck there and you can't escape, and you just live forever in this.
It's like a black hole. It's an area between 2 areas.
Yeah.
Got
it. And so she has part of that in her, so she can like kind of access it and basically transition between things. She's kind of like transparent. She can turn transparent. And
so she can walk through walls.
Yeah, but she was an integral. She's actually part of the Phantom Zone that she has part of her though, because in Superman Legion of Superheroes, Mon-El, who is a House of El, so he's somehow related to Superman, but he's actually a Draxian or a Daxian.
Game of Thrones. Got it.
No, whatever. He's another race, but his race was also from a planet of a red sun. So he, when in Yellow Sun area, has the powers of Superman, because it's the same concept that he's an alien from a red world. So when he's in a place with Yellow Sun, his he gets superpower just like Superman does.
Okay.
The same thing with Sodom Yat, who's actually the final. We'll talk about that in a second. I guess he's the final guardian of the galaxy. Not like Guardians of the Galaxy, but like Guardian of Oa of Green Lantern.
It's confusing a guy like me when you mix those.
Sorry.
So I got it.
Anyway, so but he was banished to the Phantom Zone by the bad guy Earthman. In that they don't show it, but they're like that's where he went. So she helps rescue him in Legion of 3 Worlds because no one else can touch anybody in the Phantom Zone, but she can just turn into Phantom Zone power and grab him out.
If they touch anyone in the Phantom Zone, got it. And so can she go between universes?
Not
Or
really.
I don't understand
It's
walking through walls and going through the Phantom Zone. That seems
2 different things, but she's just she can be the transparency of the Phantom Zone to walk through stuff. She's intangible.
So I guess the question is the Phantom Zone a specific location, or is it everywhere and she's able to access
it's
like an internet?
From what I to understand, you need like a special teleport to get into it.
Okay, so it's somewhere though.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a place.
It's a place. There we go. Okay.
Which is kind of like I think they had Jail 47. Remember that in
Civil War.
Civil War.
Yep.
Similar thing. You know, teleport to get this other dimension place where they can hold their bad guys.
Makes sense.
And then Chameleon Boy, who I was like, who is a Chameleon Boy? Like honestly, I've read all 3 of these, which I added another book here because I want to talk about Starman because he's great. But Chameleon Boy, I was like, there's a Chameleon Girl that's married to Colossal Boy, but I don't understand, like, well,
it's their son.
Of course, I don't know, actually. I haven't figured out that much of it, but he's, like, the main character of the new Legion books for DC.
Oh,
so, like, I assumed that initially. I was like, I don't know what this guy is. Maybe he's part of the new stuff, so I downloaded the first issue, and of course, he's, like, the first character that pops up, Chameleon Boy. I was like, okay, well, that's your reason, right?
Okay.
DC wants to sell their comic books, and he's the main character.
Sure.
So people who are reading them would be like, where's Chameleon Boy, right? If you're reading the new stuff.
Yeah.
And Phantom Girl's also a pretty big character as well. So,
all right, so we've got our superheroes now.
We got our superheroes. Next, we could talk about, I guess, the supervillains, and then we'll just talk about some of the other stuff. And we'll get out of here. Yeah. So, the supervillains that I thought were the most interesting, Persuader, he's pretty cool. He's in the Final Crisis. He has this axe that can break through anything, including, like, a Green Lantern energy thing. So, like,
no shield would work.
Yeah, he just, like, is a super axe. So, he's the hardest bad guy. He doesn't, I mean, if he hit Superman, I suppose it could break through anything. It might be able to cut him in half.
Write that down as a story, kids.
Yeah.
Fanfic.
Persuader. He'll just slice Superman right now.
That would be a short book.
Anyway, so Persuader, he's the hardest. Then they have Lightning Lord and Saturn Queen are supervillains. So their Lightning Lord is the older brother of Lightning Lad and Lightning Girl. And then Saturn Queen, I can't remember if it's her mom or her sister. It's one of the two, or maybe just from the same planet.
Queen sounds like a mom.
Yeah, it does sound more like a mom
with that.
than Lord. Yeah. So, but her power is pretty cool. But we'll talk about how her power relates because they added a new mechanic into this. So we'll talk about that after we talk about all the different characters. And then Time Trapper. Time Trapper is the main villain of Final Crisis, who, spoiler, but it's been out for a while, and revealed at the end, is just super old Superboy Prime. So he makes this whole book happen because he's messing with the time and makes Superboy thrown in there just to fuck with everybody and because he hates everybody.
It's like the Reverse Flash at this point.
Yeah, so totally. So he's just manipulator that he's always covered to the end of the book, and he's just like a bearded Superboy Prime, which at that point he really is a Superman. Let's be honest.
So,
but I mean, Cosmic Boy stays a boy, even though he's a man.
Yeah, and that's probably why he's so angry, because no one would just acknowledge it, because Cosmic Boy won't
right.
change it.
So the Time Trapper, which I thought was really fun. So what I did though when I played it is I just threw Superboy Prime in there, also like right after Time Trapper. So it's kind of like he's revealed as Superboy Prime when I played it the other day, because that's fun. Okay, so those are the villains. Some just fun stuff. Cosmic King, who is the third of the Saturn Girl and Lightning Lord, Saturn Queen and Lightning Lord, like he's the cosmic version. He's just a regular villain. They're like, you know what, we're not going to give him supervillain status.
Okay.
Which I was like, okay.
Seems weird.
Universo is another cool bad guy that's also in that Final Crisis book. He's the father of the Green Lantern in that, and they kill him, and he's just like, I don't give a shit, I just want his ring. Like, he's a real bad guy. He's like, my son can die as long as I have his ring, and his son spit in his face, like, fuck you, Dad. He didn't say fuck you, but he said that.
He probably was thinking
that.
Okay.
And then three of the main superpowers are telepathy, electricity, and magnetism, which makes sense because of the three powers of Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, and Saturn Girl.
Do they give any specific extra powers if they're
like if
each character?
No, but like they all have the time travel ability, which we'll talk about in a second. And what's cool though, like the magnetism one's good because his power is based on equipment, because of course metal will be metal equipment, and this will you put any number of equipment with cost 4 or less into your discard pile from your discard pile to your hand. Like that's a super good card, right? If you're using it. Then some fun things from the equipment. There's the Light Legion Fight Ring, of course. The Lightning Rod, which I don't know if you read this. Maybe you didn't. I think it might have been. So in Brad Meltzer, Jeff Johns wrote a Justice League: The Lightning Saga, and it's basically in Infinite Crisis. Wally West disappears similarly to the way Barry Allen does in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and to get him back, Starman has. Well, I love Starman, but Starman has his his brain messed up, so he's kind of Deadpoolish. In the fact that like he's a hero, but more than Deadpool is. But he kind of says weird shit all the time, and no one really knows. But he did that so that he couldn't fuck up the future, so that he could be sent back with the lightning rod to save Wally West. And what you find out in this book. So I brought this up because for a while, Starman is a part of the Justice Society because he was sent back in time and just like, I'm a superhero, but he's like always like eating stuff or like saying like, I need some French fries. Like there was like, where's Starman? He's like ordering French fries, like doing funny stuff. He's hilarious and awesome, and I was kind of disappointed that his power wasn't more ridiculous. Like I was hoping that I was hoping he was a main character but he's just a great.
But that's just because you love him.
Because I love him,
that
and
was
you
the
know,
fan part of you.
Yeah, the fan part of me, and I feel like I just want to say that I'm sure those Cryptozoic guys, including Richard and everybody else, are super fans of all this stuff because of the amount of work that goes into this, and the thought like Chameleon Boy's power has to do with changing cards to other things. So of course it's a chameleon thing. Brainiac's power is using the card. You can time travel cards from your discard pile, so it's your knowledge, which is all about knowledge. So there's really clever nods to these characters' powers and stuff like that.
Now you keep mentioning the time travel.
Okay,
so
let's talk about that.
We should get into the time travel.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, so it's new power. I'm going to read about it because it's hard to explain. So I'm going to read through it, and when playing it, it'll be really cool.
Is it a physical card?
See that? No, any card that has the word time travel on it.
Okay. You
can utilize this, and some of the main characters allow you to use that. So Cosmic Boy, during each of your turns, if the first card you play in your hand is an equipment, give any card in the lineup with cost 5 or less time travel. And time travel is new keyword time travel. The Legion hail from the 31st century and are experienced time travelers. When you see the keyword time travel on a card, it means you may discard a card from your hand to play this card from the lineup or supervillain stack. If you do, you cannot buy it this turn and return at the end of your turn. You may use more than one time travel card per turn, but each card may only be used this way once per turn. Like any card you play, a time traveled card will be temporarily placed in play in front of you. So remember, there's certain cards like you have the original DC deck.
Yeah.
Green Lantern's power is to use a card, like he's basically making a construct out of it, but you can't buy that card because you're using it. Or sometimes there'll be supervillains that allow you to use, like Martian Manhunter, allows you to use the supervillain, but you can't defeat him that turn, right?
Right. So you're taking something from the active play,
right?
And using it, but it's not yours.
Right, it goes back.
Okay.
And so it only applies to cards with time travel on them, which are almost every single one of the cards from the Legion pack. I think it might be all of them, the exception of the first villain. But her power is really cool because you may play time travel without paying the discard costs. So if you team up her with someone like Cosmic Boy, whose power is during each of your turns, if the first card you play is an equipment, give a card with cost 5 or less time travel, you can use any card with cost 5 or less, especially if you have her, without discarding. So you're just like, it's almost like you're getting just a 6th card of like, as long as it's 5 or less in lineup. And so I use that. I think we determine when playing it, it's more helpful in the beginning of the game, like most cards like that.
Sure.
To like help you get cards you want. Like, I need plus
Stack
2 more.
Yep.
I only need 2 more to get that 7, right? Well, I have 5, and then I time travel that card, and then I can buy that.
Okay. That makes
so
sense,
it's really fun. Like, it's a really cool ability and thing to use. And that's the big change of this, which is super neat. And so before we wrap this up, of course, they added a new location, Legion headquarters. They added a couple more villains, super villains and villains, but it's fine. But I like that they had the lightning rod. I think that's where I was going, because the lightning rod's a thing. The time sphere is a thing. And then the other characters besides Starman, who I love Starman. I can't say that enough. He's just so great. You should read the Justice League of America, Thy Kingdom Come, and the Lightning Saga for some great Starman moments. But lots of the Justice League of America stuff. Or sorry, the Justice Society. Justice League of America Lightning Saga, the Justice Society, Thy Kingdom Come. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And Thy Kingdom Come, it has Kingdom Come in it because they basically, during the lightning storm, the Shazam, Starman reaches into the Kingdom Come universe and pulls Kingdom Come Superman into the canon universe, and it's about Gog coming the first time.
Okay.
Magog. I mean, remember, that was the whole thing that started the chain reaction of why shit went to hell, because then they're dealing with Gog. And
it all happened in between the Shazams too, right?
Right. And they put him back right before the lightning bolt happened. So Dawnstar, of course, is a hero, which her power is interesting. Her power is finding the way to things. That's literally what it says. I remember if I could find
She's really good at maps.
No, but she can always find the way to things. That's her power. Let's see if I could find where it says that. And I was like, what? Here, she already appeared here, so it must have her little... That's what I love about this book, though. Every time that characters appear, it's like, here's what they do, and you're like, that's what they do. I think she's probably farther in the beginning, because it was, stuff that was going down. Anyway, so that's her power, is just, finding the way to things, which is just kind of silly and interesting, but cool. I can't find where it says it exactly, or whatever. But the point is, that's her power. So... and Kon-El, of course, is pretty cool. He's in there. Dream Girl is another, she's bigger, I think, in the new stuff. And then, those are the 4 main heroes that they added. Yeah, and we're back to Starman, of course. Always back to Starman. So some characters I wish were in there. Polar Boy. I really like Polar Boy a lot. Okay. I feel like I would have loved to have him, even if he was just a regular something, just to see him. And then Sodom Yat. So Sodom Yat is also... So it's basically... He's from the same planet that Kon-El is from. And so... Imagine Superman with a Green Lantern ring. That's this guy.
Oh, wow.
Super bad.
He's almost overpowered.
Yeah, and he's a guardian, so he has all the power of the core. Really cool hero, but not, I guess, probably not as prevalent in the new stuff. But he was a big part of the Final Crisis book.
So after playing a couple rounds of this, what did you think? Give us our Comic Shop Get review.
It's fantastic. I say that if you want a really cool new twist on the game, I think that. It doesn't really matter that you don't know the characters. I like how each of these characters works with the time travel mechanic. The fact that they are kind of thought through. He's using elements. He's using villains because he's a justice. He hates bad guys, and she's kind of uses the heroes, so she's the real hero.
So you'll get more out of it if you know the background. But for guys like me who have
it's still a really cool mechanic.
It's great. It's great, especially the time travel part.
Yeah, the time travel stuff is super neat. Okay, and I definitely recommend it. I had questions, so if anyone from Cryptozoic is watching, and you want to answer, ongoing cards. So if I'm playing with the team, this is getting real deep here.
Real in there.
So if you're playing with a Teen Titans pack and you have an ongoing card, can you just discard it from ongoing to time travel? You obviously wouldn't be able to use the power of discarding, because you can discard cards to use their powers, but can you just discard it to time travel? That's one. And then, can you discard it if you time travel a card? If you time travel an ongoing card, so technically it's in play, can you discard that card while it's in play to use the power of that card? Mainly Aqualad would come to mind. I'll show the Aqualad card here. It says ongoing. Its power is to discard a card. So, can you discard that card while you're time traveling it? It's literally not really yours. Okay. How do you discard it? I don't know. Can you? That's the question.
Who knows? How many more of these you have? How many questions?
That's it. That's only 2.
Okay.
I don't know. I might have some on the back. No, I think we just said it's helpful at the beginning, not as good at the end because there's less cards you want to discard. That's the thing. So anyway,
So,
that wraps it up.
there we go. For anyone else who's left watching, make sure you check out all of our other videos. We are Comic Chat with Gat. We're a weekly podcast about comic books. We're also something that lives and breathes by having our guests frequently join us while we record our shows. And so we also live under the CBX cast name. We have a video game podcast called Cardboard Box. We've got Real Retro, which goes over movies,
And they're talking about Back to the Future 2 this week.
which
actually I think we're putting it up
the day
same
it
day.
comes out, probably.
So same day as ours. Competition. Well, no.
We would win.
Okay.
No. So anyways, Comic Chat WGAT with Twitter, which I don't run anymore. Taylor runs it, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Comic Chat with Gat on Instagram and Tumblr. Taylor also does that too. And I just kind of hang out and watch. Like, literally hang out and watch. But otherwise, subscribe, follow, check out our other links, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And go play this game. And here's a link to when we played it, and I got to play it for the first time. So,
Yeah.
There's that.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Comic Chat with Gat, where we were talking about pornography and comic books. I do indeed, Sarah. What do we do? Welcome back?
Yeah, welcome back.
Did we do a commercial?
Yeah, I did. Well, it's going to have like a... Welcome back.
Welcome back. Oh, I thought.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I knew you were going to say.
You knew I was going to do
Yeah,
it?
you go. Okay, sorry.
Welcome
back.
Damn it, Chris.
All right, sorry. Okay, wait. I was over.
Welcome back. Damn it, now I'm messed up.